So guys, like I said before, we have Abby, and Abisola O is a product leader and a data storyteller with a passion for transforming raw data into meaningful insights that drive business impact. With a career spanning analytics, product management, and business strategy, Abisola's Tableau journey began as a self-startup, seeking to bridge the gap between data and decision making across teams. So, Abby is a five-time Tableau Visionary, globally recognized for her leadership in the data community. Abby, I don't think this introduction is justice to who you are and what you've done for the Tableau Nigerian community. So I will leave the floor open for you to quickly introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, five times Tableau Visionary, um, product analytics. Um, yeah, I'm excited to be here. Feel free to ask me any questions. And nice to meet you all.
It does been wanted, but it's one of the big dogs of Tableau in Nigeria. And we're so honored to have you here, Abby. So this session we'll be having a little bit of questions, not really a little bit, but a lot of questions and answers. And 90% of our or community members here, they are beginners. And whatever questions I'm asking, they are going to be beginner-friendly questions. Nothing technical, nothing complex. So, guys, if you have any questions for Abby, just indicate so you can walk up to here and ask them your question. So the first question will be for those starting their journey. So Abby, like I said, we have community members who are completely new to data. Sorry, Abby.
No.
So Abby, we have community members who are completely new to data visualization. They keep hearing about Tableau everywhere, but they're not sure if this is the right path for them. How would you advise someone to know if they should pursue this field seriously?
Okay. So I can give context into actually how I started. When I started using Tableau, I actually, my classmate in uni, this was back in like 2017, actually. Yeah. So a classmate in uni that worked in some consulting company messaged me like, oh, there was an opening in their company. And I said, oh, I'm interested. And it was for a consulting role, actually. And then when I got to the interview, they started asking me questions about Tableau. 2017, I'd never heard about it. I didn't even know what data visualization was, right? And it was two stages. The next stage, they asked me to do a presentation on Tableau. So of course, I had to go to Google. There was no ChatGPT or AI to help you do a presentation, right? So I put together some wonky slide deck and I went to present about Tableau, something I didn't know about. Maybe I said the right things, right? They invited me for a second stage, and I would say I hacked my way through the interview because I really didn't know what I was talking about, right? All I did was pull information from the internet and go and present. But I went in and I got the role. The role was actually to sell Tableau. The company was a Tableau consulting partner in Nigeria, and I think they were the only one at the time. So the goal was sell Tableau to the banks, ministries, other tech companies, and all of that. So if you're going into a role to sell Tableau, obviously you need to know how to use it because then I had to go demo to the banks, right? So have to do presentations to the bank. If you have Tableau, this is what your reporting would look like and all of that, right? So that's how I started learning it. And when I got into the role, I think my first week, right, my manager gave me a dashboard and he told me to recreate it. There was nobody that was going to help me. So I went on the internet. Lots of videos, lots of resources to try and recreate the dashboard, right? And he told me, um, difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. Because 3 days after he gave me the dashboard to recreate, I was like, oh, yes, I'm still trying to figure it out. It's a bit difficult. And then he told me difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week, meaning that no matter how difficult it was, I needed to have recreated that dashboard by the end of the week. That sounds really harsh, right? But what that did for me was there was nobody for me to ask. I had to go on the internet, right? And that's how I actually became part of the Tableau community because then I would go into the forums, ask questions, watch a lot of videos, connect to people that use Tableau. Then there was I didn't even know anybody in Nigeria, so excuse my um political correctness, but I had to go message a lot of white people on the internet. And that's just really what it was, and become their friends and be saying hello on Twitter because they were the ones making the content then, right? Um, so that's how I started. There was also this thing called Makeover Monday, and I think it's still on. And there's someone called Chimdi. Chimdi is a popular Tableau visionary as well, actually. He's Nigerian. But anyway, so did Makeover Monday consistently for 6 months even in my full-time job. I know you'd say you don't have the time, but I needed to learn the software, right? And that's what I did. I think one of the things that made it different for me was fine, while I was selling the software, I actually gained personal interest in it. And that's what made me that dedicated. Like, okay, I want to learn more about this. I'm going to do Makeover Monday every week for 6 months, right? So that's kind of like what I did, you just have to, it's learning and practice, right? So 6 months straight, it was really, really tough because then the data sets will come out on I don't remember the schedule now, maybe on a Friday, you have to present it on a Tuesday. And by presenting it, you submit it to like an online, there's a link online, right? Then the Makeover Monday leaders would review it. They'll give you feedback on what you did well, what you did not do well, week on week for 6 months, right? Even other people doing it will give you feedback as well. So, and to summarize, that's what I did, right? I watched a lot of videos, started my Tableau public profile. Yeah, that's it. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I hope that answers your question as well. So, Abby, I have a second question for you on overcoming self-doubt because I know it's very difficult to put out stuff out there and also compare yourself with other people. And when the community guys look at amazing dashboards online, they sometimes feel like they are never good enough or never be that good. Did you ever feel this way when you started? How would you encourage someone to push through those moments of doubt?
Um, There's no way to sugarcoat it. You just have to push through. If you go on my Tableau public profile and see my first dashboard, it's so horrible. But I've never removed it, right? I put all of these colors there. I use I probably use like some ugly pie charts and some big, like it's really, really ugly. Like it's a really terrible dashboard. But like obviously I have to start from somewhere, right? The first one is not going to be great. If your first one is great, then like where is your learning process? Right. If you're starting something new for the first time, the first one is not going to be great. And the second one might not be great either, right? And maybe the third, fourth, fifth. But what something I also used to do is, and I don't know if this is still possible, is download people's dashboards, their workbooks from Tableau, and I would reverse engineer it, right? And what that means is when you open the Tableau text desktop, like from a dashboard that's already done, you remove all the elements, see what changes in the look and feel of the dashboard. So I'm removing it, recreating it on my own, right? That helps me understand like, oh, this is what this person did to achieve this, right? So your first dashboard, for lack of a better word, is going to be shitty, very, very, very shitty, but you have to improve from there. Also, creativity comes from like you have to expose yourself, right? What does a good dashboard look like, right? I recommend this book all the time, Storytelling with Data. And it was someone else that introduced me to it, but I recommend that book all the time. I even buy it for people. Like that book teaches you about how to present, right? What is most important, right? A dashboard is not just throwing in numbers or throwing in bar charts or line charts, right? You need to know what does the stakeholder and present it? Because when you get into a company and you're working, nobody cares about your beautiful dashboards. Honestly, that's really the truth. nobody cares about all these your colors. You're going to actually do basic, simple dashboards, right? At work, nobody is doing complex stuff, and I promise you, right? You need to just communicate to stakeholders what is important, right? And when even at work, the more what matters more is your technical rigor in figuring out the complexities of logic behind business rules. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really about what is the logic guiding this business rule and how do I translate that into like maybe a field or a filter or whatever like that, right? Not the beauty of the dashboard. So yeah, expose yourself to what other folks are doing. When you see a good dashboard, try to recreate it and do that as many times as possible. And don't be afraid to start. Yeah.
Thank you, Abby. I know you mentioned Tableau Public. If you have a Tableau Public account, can I see your hands up? Okay. So we have like 70% of the individuals here that does not have a Tableau Public account. So what you need to do first is to have a Tableau Public account. It's easy. You go on Tableau Public, you see Tableau Public account, create it, and you can follow the process as well. I don't know how to do that anymore, but you can easily create on Google, type Tableau Public and create an account. With that, you can have a Tableau Public account, which also gives you access to Tableau Public desktop. So you can start your visualization journey. Abby, we have some persons here who are trying to go into the data space as well. Like I said, 80% of the individuals here are beginners. And in the midst of these beginners, we have people that are already in a full-time job. And it's really difficult to balance that full-time job with family responsibilities, with other stuff you need to do. So how can one realistically find time to learn Tableau without being overwhelmed? And what kind of approach will you recommend?
That's a tough one, and yes, everyone's situation is different. I if it's important enough, right, for you, I think you just have to make the time. If it means waking up earlier, going to bed later, removing some other things from your schedule so that you can create the time. But also, maybe this is maybe in this season of your life, this is not what is most important to you, right? So you just have to also figure that out, right? Like, is this what is important to me at the time? Is my focus in this moment to improve myself, or do I have a different focus? So that way it helps you like manage your expectations on what you should be doing in this moment, right? Versus thinking, oh, I want to do everything together. So if you're at a stage where your family obligations require more of your time, maybe just be honest with yourself and say, in this season, I would focus on that, right? And give yourself time to plan, right? But if you know that, okay, I really want to do it, then you have to make out the time. Like I said, I did Makeover Monday in a full-time job every week. Nobody at work was scoring me or reviewing. It was for my own personal development, right? Nobody asked me to do it, right? It didn't mean that I didn't have deliverables at work, right? But I still had to do it. But heck, I didn't have more responsibilities at that time, right? Right now, I've not even built a Tableau dashboard in maybe 2 years, right? So obviously I'm rusty, but back then it was my focus. So yeah, it depends on the season of your life that you're in.
All right. Thank you, Abby. Do we have any questions for Abby before I continue? Any questions on that? You're looking at me like you have a question. Okay, we have like 3 persons that has a question on that. So you can come to ask your question. You have a question? You have a question? Okay.
Okay, so she said Charlotte, you said you've not been using Tableau since for how long now? 2 years now. So
Yeah, maybe 2 years. I can't hear you. I've lost the audio. I've lost the audio. Okay, it's back.
Okay. I was asking, you still build dashboards, right? Because you said you've not built any in 2 years. Child.
Yes, and that's also because my role is from a data perspective, I'm not actively building dashboards. What I'm doing more of is data strategy, right? How do we go from 0 to 1 when it comes to data in a company, right? So I'm not actively building dashboards. And even when I'm actively building dashboards, I'm not using Tableau. But also, that's also because the current role I'm in, the company is like just setting up their data warehouse and data foundations from scratch. So we didn't go with Tableau as our first choice, right? We went with a more open source option for data visualization. So yeah,
So which tool is that one? Sorry,
Metabase.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you so much. So we have a second question. Please come.
But just to add, data visualization is, it doesn't matter what tool you pick. I prefer Tableau, right? But different circumstances may mean that you had to go with a different tool per time. When I left the consulting role and joined the fintech I used to work at, Paystack, right? They didn't have a data visualization tool. Data was new then. So my when I joined, I championed Tableau, like, oh, we need to get our data set up and all of that. I championed Tableau, even though that they were still using Metabase at the time. But because the needs of the organization were more mature, right, then we had to use Tableau, right? Tableau met our needs better at the time. So it's not really about the tool. Once you know how to use one of it, it's easier to move around any of the options available.
Right.
Okay, so just to add to the last question you asked, because I am still in the learning process. I'm still learning. Just I sometimes while learning, I feel overwhelmed. I'm not motivated at all to like want to continue. So I don't know if if you have a word to like what can you say to that just to give a driving force because I honestly feel not to even do anything again. While in my inner mind, I want to learn it, but the motivation, the drive is not there. So what can you say about that?
Okay, my question for you is why do you want to learn it? And I know this is going to sound like motivational speaking. I really don't like motivational speaking propaganda. But okay, why are you learning Tableau? Like, why? Why not go and do something else? Why did you start?
Okay, I started because a friend actually introduced it to me, and I I made my research about it, and I felt it's something I like. I love. That's why I chose it. Not like someone actually pushed me like, okay, this is what you do. But it's my interest to want to
Okay,
do.
why is it your interest? Like, what is your expectation? What is your goal?
I go so because according to part of what data analysis is to give business to help business make decision making, right? So which is what I love to do as well.
Okay, great. So if that's your goal, and you know that my goal is I want to help businesses make better decisions, and the process is I'm going to learn a tool that would give me better advantage, like a better leverage to be in this position, right? That would try and make that your driving force, right? Every day, I want to be in this role. You can look up people online, right? They don't have to be your mentors, they don't have to be anything to you, but you can just study their careers and see people that are in certain stages of their life, like, okay, how did this person get here, right? And again, think about it in the bigger picture, right? You're not a Tableau learning machine. What you are is a professional, or what you're going to be is a professional that helps turn data. Like you want to give information to your executive leadership, right? To tell them this is what is happening, or this is the direction we should go, or this is something that we should stop doing, right? So think about learning Tableau in the bigger context of that, right? What you're doing is providing information to stakeholders, right? To drive business growth. That's really what it is. Tableau is a tool to help you get to that, right? So you have to motivate yourself. Sorry if I don't have any better form of motivation to give you, but like you have to motivate yourself. Every day when you wake up, you want to be 10% better, right? When I on Tableau Public, there's lots of inspiration. Like when you see some dashboards, even me, I feel like I don't think I can ever do this, right? But I also know that I think I remember then there was this type of charts, Sankey charts, right? And they were a huge thing then, but they're so complicated. Now I think they're native in Tableau, but then they were so complicated. Actually, at some point, I'm like, oh, maybe I should try and learn how to do this for the creativity. But after a while, I didn't bother learning it because I'm just like, it's not important to me at this time, right? What is important is how can I be consistent, right? Versus trying to do really complex stuff. So you have to motivate yourself. Remember the why of why you started, right? And have a vision or goal in your mind to help you. Maybe it's like every quarter I want to do X number of dashboards, and you would also see how you've gotten better, right? So yeah,
Thank you.
I hope that helps. I lost the audio again.
Can you hear me, Abby? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. I said this was one of the questions I had for you, but thankfully someone already asked that, so I'm going to skip it. And we have one
Okay.
more question from do you still want to ask your question?
Yes,
Yeah, she's here.
what I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, once you secure a Tableau, you need like, is it fully required to have other skills like maybe SQL, like that pipeline and Matrix and other things also? Is it like a full, you have to learn it fully, or just like maybe have a little knowledge or it's so requirement for it? It's like this job.
Okay. So what I'm
Almost
going to tell you, you're going to realize that you need to learn SQL down the line, but it also depends on the kind of organization that you join. So for context, when I first started learning Tableau, I didn't even know what SQL was. I mean, I started from not even knowing what Tableau was to knowing Tableau and then not knowing what SQL was. So I joined Paystack, and when I joined Paystack, um, in that role, I realized, oh, okay, database, right? That's where the data is, and I need to talk to engineers. And I noticed that because first, take a step back, right? To do a dashboard in Tableau, you need data, right? Where's your data source? Either you connect the CSV, right? Or you connect directly to the database. So that gives you context like, okay, this is where the data is, this is how I connect it, right? Um, and I also had to do some manual, it's corporate, still do some manual work, or somebody will still want something in Excel, no matter how you try, right? So to get data, right, it's like, okay, I need to get data out of the database. What am I going to use? I had to learn SQL. So I learned SQL on the job. And learning SQL on the job meant talking to the engineers that I was asking to write a query for me and trying to reverse engineer what they were writing from queries. Select star from where, like how do I put where? What does having mean? What do all these constraints in SQL mean, right? So if you're just starting, focus on learning Tableau, but down the line, you will realize that knowing SQL helps you. It strengthens your foundation, right? And it helped me as well a lot. So now even when I'm working with a data engineer or I'm or in my role like doing data products, right? I can translate to my data engineer like this is the business requirement, right? This is how I think that you can do XYZ, right? So I would say if you want to pace yourself, you can start with learning Tableau, right? Down the line, though, you'll realize that knowing SQL is helpful and you will learn that too on the job. Yeah.
Thank you, Abby. We have a couple of questions on the Q&A section for the visual guys. So I'm gonna pick one or two questions and ask. Then we can continue from what I have here. So we have first question from Chinaza. So she is asking, hi, Abby, for someone experienced in Power BI, what's the biggest shift in thinking required? What's the biggest shift in thinking required to design effective dashboards in Tableau?
Um, Since I'm not experienced in Power BI, I probably can't answer this, but I would say overall, the concept is kind of the same, right? If you're building a good dashboard in Power BI, you should be able to build one in Tableau. I think from an, not I think, aesthetically or visually, Tableau overall is better. Maybe I'm biased, right? But yeah, but I think like um the process or the concept is the same, right? Yeah.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Chinasa. So we have another question here. I think that has been answered already. Can I build a career from just using Tableau? I think someone asked that already. There we have
Yes,
another question. Oh, okay.
actually, I can speak on that. Like, absolutely, you can. There are people that their full-time roles are Tableau consultants, right? What they're doing is they go into an organization and try to help them solve their data problems, right? Either maybe as a package, right? Or singular, like try to help them build dashboards because they already have Tableau and they need someone to either coach their team or build like a Tableau center of excellence. But you can build a career from knowing how to use Tableau, right? It's absolutely possible. You just need to be able to see what's possible. So you can move from data visualization to data analyst. And if you decide to change to products, you can. I've done many different roles since I started learning Tableau. And each one has been a stepping stone for the next part, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Abby. We have one more question from Shoma. Shoma asks, how much of Excel, Power BI, or Tableau is required for data roles like data strategy, data governance, AI data roles? How did you go from product analytics to data strategy in your current role?
That's a good question. I would say it depends, but I don't think data strategy sounds like, oh, so woo-ish, but the problem is that I joined a company, they didn't have any data structure. For people, for finance to know the answer, right? There's five different queries when somebody asks, what did we do last month, right? That single answer, if you ask five different people, you get a different answer, right? Or that singular question, you ask five different people in the company, you get a different answer. Obviously, that's a breakdown of information. It means the information is siloed, teams are doing their thing separately. There is no one single source of truth. So data strategy can simply mean how do we get this organization from this siloed information method to a singular source of truth, right? So it's not that you need Tableau to know how to do that, but I could drive this process because I know what's needed. I know that from scratch we need a data warehouse, right? I know that we need like some ELT process to get data refreshed daily. And I know that even though the data is in the data warehouse, how do I translate that information? Like, how do I make sure that my CEO on a Monday morning has access to the data, right? That end-to-end process, I've done it in multiple different roles across the years, so I can drive that process, right? So it's not that you need Tableau, like nobody's asking me to build a Tableau dashboard today, right? But for the analyst in the company, I can mentor the person, right? And coach the person to say, this is what you should do, right? Or support the person to evaluate data visualization tools, right? Because I didn't do the evaluation, for example, right? Had an analyst do it because I can't do everything, right? But someone else also has to be empowered. So it's like, okay, you're the analyst, drive the exploration of part of what we need to do in this data strategy is we need to pick a data visualization tool. So let's evaluate, right? Pick all the three, build some samples, let's review with the company, let's present it, and then we decide which one to go with. So it's not that you need to know how to use Tableau to do data strategy, but if you haven't used, if you haven't been in the space enough, like what do you want to do as data strategy? How do you know what to do? Right? Yeah. Data governance, data governance, I would say it's not exactly Tableau related, right? But it kind of helps, right? It kind of helps. Like if you're in the data space, it's easy to maybe if you're a data analyst, you can data governance, you can think of it as an adjacent role, right? Um, in terms of especially in big companies where you need to be like compliant, think of privacy, information protection, and all those things like PII, etc. So it's not that you, to summarize, it's not that you absolutely need to learn Tableau for a data governance role, but like if you haven't been in the space enough, how do you know what to advise? Yeah.
Thank you, Abby. I think that was a really good answer to that question. We have two more questions to go. So I'll ask one last question for Anonymous and a very important question I have here for I and also the audience. So the question from Anonymous attendee, this person said, are there platforms to volunteer or intern as a Tableau user to help upskill and learn more?
If your focus is to improve on Tableau, just do Makeover Monday. That's what I'm going to tell you. Every Monday, commit to building a dashboard, right? See what other people are doing, improve yourself, give yourself 6 months, or give yourself 3 months. No, maybe 6 months, and see what progress you've made. Yeah, then you're using like fine, the data is vague, right? It's not relatable, maybe. But it's a good start, right? If your goal is to learn, like to sharpen your Tableau chops, do that. Go do that every week, right? If your goal is, if you now want to move from that to how do I translate this to maybe an organization, that's a different thing, right? But if it's to sharpen your Tableau chops, I would say go do Makeover Monday, yeah.
Yes, I think everybody here started with Makeover Monday before we jumped into business dashboards. I started with Makeover Monday. Literally, GB, Israel, Idris, yeah, started with Makeover Monday. So that's a very important resource. I don't think you need to volunteer to even do a Makeover Monday.
No,
So,
you don't.
yeah. So, Abby, I'm gonna ask you a very important question, which I think this is also my question as well. While you were talking about your experience with Paystack and also trying to tell people about Tableau in Nigeria when Tableau wasn't rampant and literally zero persons knows about it. How did you do that? And the second question will be about building professional network. So, how did you build your network when you were starting? And also, how important is networking really? And how can someone do it without feeling awkward? I think I asked you a lot of questions, but
Yeah.
please do
Okay,
summarize
so
it for me.
the first one was, I don't remember. Sorry, what's the first one?
Okay, so the first question was, okay, let's just tailor it down to professional network, right? How did you build your network when you were starting? How important is networking, and how can someone do it without feeling awkward?
Okay, so actually, I remember the first one. Now you asked me, Tableau was not known. What did I do? That was really, really hard. It was hard because number one, when I knew about Tableau, my goal was to sell Tableau. Like, I literally had to go into the banks, go into the ministries to tell them this is what you need, right? But that also taught me something really important about sales, right? You cannot avoid sales, but that's not the focus of this conversation today, right? But for you to sell something, there has to be a need, right? So it was really hard. And like I said earlier, I had to go on the internet and talk to a lot of white people because I did not see people around me doing that. Over time, right, I actually built like a community which is no longer active. It was called Weavies. And that's kind of how I met Idris and Golaho as well. We're just introducing people to Tableau locally, right? But now there's a lot of resources online, even within Nigeria, right? There like lots of people putting out content, doing things like this group, for example, right? So I would say it was hard, but over time it's gotten better. That's almost 10 years ago now. How did I build my professional network? Again, there was nobody looking like me, right? Or that I knew that actively understood what I was doing. So I was online most of the time. I spent way too much time on the internet, right? And that's how I met people, right? I met like lots of these Tableau popular people, right? And I built relationships with them. They're people that I've traveled and I've said, oh, I'm here, let's meet up. And I'm leaving my family to go to another city in like Ohio because I want to meet the Flelage twins. And I met like them and like a couple of people because then I looked up to them like, wow, these people are doing so much. So like if I'm in your neck of the woods, I'm going to journey to make sure that we connect and hang out and I meet like all these other Tableau people as well online, right? So it was literally just sharing what I was doing at the time, right? Online on the internet. Um, actually, and you're right, it could feel awkward. So then what I did was I had like my separate Twitter account. I actually created a new Twitter account because of Tableau, right? Because I didn't want to use my main Twitter account. Like I didn't want to look awkward. And that's what I did then. But if you ask me now, would I separate it again? I would say no. I'll just maintain one, right? Like I didn't need to do all of that, but I felt it was awkward and oh, I don't want to look like this is the only thing I'm posting on my feed. Let me have a separate account, right? But it doesn't really matter. Nobody even cares about like just do you, honestly. Like it doesn't matter. When it comes to relationships, is again just sharing what I was doing, connecting with the people, meeting them where possible, joining events online, contributing to the community, helping others, right? It wasn't only about what I could get, it was also helping others. Like that's why, for example, I also started a community. But I also wanted to help people because I'd learned so much. I'm like, I learned so much about this thing online. I don't think I've done a single paid Tableau course ever. Like I have not paid anybody to learn anything. Everything I learned was for free on YouTube, on the forums, right? I haven't paid a dime. So I'm like, okay, I need to help other people as well. And I didn't, yeah. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that does help. I don't think Tableau is expensive to learn. If you ever pay for a Tableau course from someone, I don't know what you're doing, but it's free. Resources are free. There's an avalanche of resources from the community, right? So, thank you so
But
much, Abby.
actually, one more
Okay,
thing, yeah, thank you.
yeah,
About regarding payments, is that sometimes when things are free, people don't value it, right? So
yeah,
people misuse it's free, right? So people can misuse it. Like I've done a lot of maybe boot camps and like 1,000 people can express interest, but it's supposed to be like for 3 weeks, right? How many people will really get to the end? But maybe if they're paid for it, the attitude or the rate of completion will be higher, right? So yeah, it depends really. Yeah,
yeah. I also agree with that. It depends, and sometimes you really need to pay for the advanced learning as well. So, which
yeah,
is really
yeah,
pursuing your career. Thank you so much,
yeah.
Abby. Thank you for being here. And do we have any more questions for Abby before we let her go? Questions? No, we don't. Thank you, Abby. Thank you so much.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day and good job to all the organizers. Honestly, this is amazing. Well done trying to put this together and help other people get started on their journey. So good job.
Thank you for being here. Guys, we'll be having another session. And this session would be with Sebastine Amede. Please, sorry if I murder your name. So,
Yeah, it's
just
cool.
thank you. Just a quick intro. So, Sebastine is a Tableau developer at Barkbus, and he will be taking the topic on learning in public, using community projects, reverse engineering, and social media to elevate your Tableau skills. And
I think I've lost audio. I can't hear.
can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. So, can we have one house, please? We can hear some persons having conversations. All right. Sebastine is a Tableau Next 2025 member. He was a Tableau Public featured author in 2024. He won Visa of the Day 3 times and has been in the Tableau Weekly Roundup many times. Sebastine uses Tableau to learn new things, share his work, and find new ways to design business dashboard. He is currently a data visualization developer at Barkbus. He uses his technical skills and design ideas to build useful analytic solutions using Tableau. When he's not busy, Sebastine enjoys playing football, Scrabble, working out, cooking. Well, he's a proud Liverpool FC supporter. He admits to having had a dysfunctional relationship with the club over the years, but they're on good terms now. Wow, that is very toxic. So Sam, you can have the mic now and introduce yourself to our friends.
Hello everyone. Really excited to be here. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen and let's get this started. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see my screen? Hello.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Um, Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, wherever you are. My name is Sebastine, and I'm really excited to do this, mainly because um, the organizers of this Tableau user group has been a significant part of my growth. And yeah, it's really great to be here. Shout outs to Maureen and GB and Michael. You guys are doing a really good job. All right. So before I continue, I want to take us down memory lane to how my journey started. Yeah. So this was a tweet from a couple of years ago, I think 2023, where I tweeted GB about Tableau, and I saw his profile and it was really cool. And I like what he has been doing with his Tableau profile and the visits there. So I tweeted at him and he was talking about a bootcamp that was starting at that time. Uh, I was kind of like tied up with some other stuff, so I was not able to join the bootcamp. So yeah, this is literally the not the beginning, but a significant part of the beginning of how my Tableau journey started. Yeah, look at my vis. This is one of the first vis I built. And I mean, it's really bad. Look at the colors, look at how uh ship status and segments are in the same, they have the same color palette. It's just so weird. Like, but then if you go down the rabbit hole of my Tableau public, you're going to see a lot of visits like this, like really bad vis. Now let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about using community projects, reverse engineering, and social media to elevate your Tableau skill. A brief introduction about myself. My name is Sebastine. I'm part of the 2025 Tableau Next cohort. Data visualization developer Barkbus. Barkbus is a mobile grooming company, basically Uber for dogs. What I do day to day is to build visualization to help my stakeholders make sense of the data and kind of make decisions. So day in, day out, I use Tableau. The agenda for today, my Tableau journey. I guess I'm kind of ahead of myself. I'm sorry about that. I already talked about my journey. But going forward, we are going to be talking about community projects, reverse engineering, social media for learning and growth. And most things I'm going to be talking about will be based on my experience, and except stated otherwise, but it's going to be based on my experience and how you can use that to kind of make things easy for your own journey, I guess. So community projects. What is community projects? What are community projects? I mean, we keep hearing the buzzword community, but um community projects are like they are voluntary driven, right? Nobody gets paid to do that. Everybody that does it is like they do it on their own, but they do it with the intention of helping the community to grow, helping new users like you and new users to grow and build their skills, and helping seasoned professionals to also learn more tricks and also sharpen their skills. Basically, that's what community projects are all about. These projects usually have they usually have a team. So whatever it is that your interest is, whether it's building business dashboards, whether it's building sports dashboards, whether it's testing your Tableau skills or trying to build your Tableau skills, you can use Workout Wednesday. Or if you are just new, there's always, excuse me, there's always a community for you. Sorry. Okay. So why do these matter? Why do community projects matter? Right? First and foremost, it gives you exposure to the data farm, right? People get to know you, and you kind of like, well, it's kind of easy for you to network and like talk to people and get feedback, right? It gives a structured path for learning. This is really, really significant for me because while I was starting out, it can get easy to it can get easy to kind of go to the go around the loop of learning the same thing over and over and over again. So you can easily do that. And that's not something that you want to do, right? So community projects kind of gives you a structured learning path, right? Let's use back to biz basis for instance. I did that a lot while I was starting out. Um, and so every week they come up with different challenges where you use a certain type of charts to communicate data, right? So it kind of gives you that structured part. So you don't actually get confused. Do you understand? It's like really, really cool and really, really good. It also exposes you to new techniques and you get a lot of feedback from the data farm. You get a lot of feedback. So you don't have to do it alone, basically. That's what you just need to know. You don't have to do it alone. I didn't do everything on my own. I had a lot of feedback from the data farm. And I'm in real life, I'm like really, really shy. I'm not so shy, right? But I mean, you have to do what you have to do, right? So feedback from the data farm is like really, really important and it would really, really help accelerate your growth. Also grow your public portfolio and expand your network. Yeah. So where do we find these community projects? My favorite place for finding community project is Twitter and LinkedIn. I am almost always active there, right? I follow up Makeover Monday. I follow up Reward Fake Data, which is my absolute favorite, right? If you go to my Tableau Public, you would see a lot of business dashboards, and basically that's what I'm actually interested in. I'm actually interested in using um finding effective ways to communicate data in the business context, helping stakeholders understand what is going on in their business. So reward fake data is a perfect community project for anyone starting out. You have different data spanning across different industries. So it's like really, really good. Then we have Workout Wednesday. Workout Wednesday basically just to test your skills. And I've used Workout Wednesday a lot too. It's really, really good, really, really nice. And um, you can find them on their social media handles using the hashtags. You can find them on their project websites and Tableau Public. And one thing to keep in mind is that these projects are open to everybody, right? No matter where you are from, no matter what you do, is open to everybody. So you can participate however you want to participate. Okay, let's talk about reverse engineering. Um, I kind of look at reverse engineering as a way to cut down your learning curve by half. So for example, if you are learning Tableau and it will take you 6 months to learn Tableau, with reverse engineering, you can do that in 3 months. So we are going to dive deeper into what reverse engineering is. The textbook definition that we have here is it involves breaking down a system of products to uncover its underlying principles. So let's simply put that reverse engineering is learning from the construction or building from the construction or troubleshooting from the construction. So basically getting the V's and cracking it open and seeing how everything works out. I guess everybody is familiar with with what we have in the picture, with what we have in the screen. Control C, Control V. Is this what reverse engineering is all about? Well, it is not. Reverse engineering is not copying and pasting. No, it's very, very far from that. Reverse engineering is excuse me. Reverse engineering is taking brilliance and making it more brilliant, right? With your own ideas. Do you understand? So when you open someone else's V's and you see that, okay, I like the structure, I like the chart type, I like the colors. So taking that out and building upon it get to get something better. And basically, with copying and pasting, you really cannot understand the how behind the wow, right? Like, if you had to do it all over again, how would you do it, right? So it's definitely not copy and paste. So there are different reasons why I reverse engineer. Personally, I do that to learn to build advanced charts. So if you are familiar with Tableau Public, you know that there are a lot of cool visits, like really, really great visits out there in Tableau Public. And you'll be like, how did they even do this? How did they even do that? Right? So, I mean, how would you know how they did it if you cannot just download it and reverse engineer it, right? So I use that a lot for that. I use that for inspiration. I use that to learn new techniques behind the build and to improve on my existing projects. So this is the process that I use to reverse engineer. And this is like not the holy grail or the perfect process, but this is just my process. This is how I um this is how I go when I want to reverse engineer a VS, right? So first and foremost is to find the VS, right? So I do that for Tableau Public, I do that from LinkedIn, I do that from Twitter. So you should try to make your feed to how do I put it? Basically, my feeds are filled with database. So when I scroll through LinkedIn, I get a lot of database. I see a lot of database, right? I get inspirations from them, right? So after finding the V's that you want to reverse engineer, the next thing you do is to explore the interactivity, right? You try to look at the filters. Are they filters? Are they parameters? What charts controls what charts? How interactive is it, right? This just gives you the overall feel of the dashboard, right? You kind of get the first-hand experience of what this person is doing with the whole dashboard stuff, right? The next thing that you do is to observe. So observe what charts are used, how is the layout structured, and the context of the V's. So basically, when you look at a V's, when you look at a dashboard, it's not just about charts. Just charts don't make dashboards, right? I mean, anybody can just go and grab a bunch of charts and just put it on a screen and yeah, that's it. But no, dashboards are much more deeper than that. We have colors, we have structures, we have padding, we have typography, we have layouts. A lot of things make up a dashboard. And if you are meticulous about those things, you can get a lot of you can get a lot of tips and a lot of tricks to make your dashboard look really, really good. I do that a lot. I do that a lot. So basically how I even learned how I even mastered how I mastered containers was through reverse engineering, right? I open people's dashboard and I see how they use containers. I see how they use padding to make the structure of their dashboard look really, really good. And structure matters a lot. It gives you, it gives, it gives, it makes the information that you're trying to display in the dashboard kind of like easy to digest, for the lack of better word, easy to digest. So you get like different layers of charts and different hierarchies of information with that. So yeah, exploring the dashboard and checking out little things makes makes up a dashboard. So the next thing to do is to download the workbook. Well, obviously. So I used to be like really, really scared of downloading workbook. I don't know, for some weird reasons, I don't know why. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why was I scared? So basically, like I don't download people's workbook when I started, right? I don't. I just do my stuff. Like, but the fact is that the reason why it is open for download is because the authors actually want you to download. If they don't want you to download it, they can just switch it off, right? So download the workbook and play with it, observe everything, and yeah, you're good. So the last part is to dig. So dig the dashboard, right? Check the calculated field, check the marks card, especially the marks card. Sometimes you can see like really, really fancy charts and you'll be like, okay, this is a bar chart. But then it's not a bar chart, it might be a line chart. Do you get? Sometimes you'll be like, okay, this dashboard is like has different components. It might not be different components. It might be just one sheet with map layers. Do you understand? So observe the marks card. You get a lot of tips from that. Check filters, check parameters, explore calculated fields, review the formatting of the dashboards and the layout. Basically, when you do all this, you have like you have so much information, rich information to build upon your own personal project. So this is the overshoots. It is by Klaus, and I mean, from looking at this viz, you know that this viz is like really, really great, right? Now look at the other viz, right? So this is the other viz is by Tanya, right? And she was inspired by Klaus's viz, and when I spoke about taking a brilliance and making it your own brilliance, this is what I mean, right? So she took some elements in classes vis, and she used that and built upon that, and you can see how cool and amazing it actually came out, right? So it saves you a lot of time in brainstorming and looking for inspiration and what have you. Reverse engineering is just is just the key, right? I think I had the previous speaker talk about that, and you should actually implement that for your growth. Okay, this is another V's by Katz, and the second one is by me. So I saw Kat's V's, and it kind of like stood out for me because backstory, we had to do something at my place of work, and we wanted to be able to filter different fields by their header, right? And then I did that, and we had another request to do it to be able to filter the dimension also by header, right? So it was kind of like it was a little bit tricky for me, but then it was like it was really, really the solution is like really, really basic. But then I've not encountered something like that. Then I remembered this vis by Cats, and I looked at it and it was like, okay, really good. And while I settled my work requirement, I decided to play around a little bit with this. So I did a custom table where you can easily sort by ascending or descending order with a pop-out menu, right? I was just playing around and having fun. It's really, really good. So yeah, another application of reverse engineering. if I must add. So let's talk about social media for learning and growth. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? Everybody does social media. Like, if you are not using social media to develop your Tableau skill, I really don't know what you're doing, to be honest, right? Even seasoned experts, people with decades of experience, they take advantage of social media to make connections, to improve their skills, to get tips and a lot of stuff. So social media is like one of the best things to happen to data visualization developers, to be honest. So it gives you access to the global data farm. I mean, how else do you want to get access to the global data farm? You cannot be traveling around the world now, right? So social media is a place to go. You get to learn and get inspired and share your work on platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, like I mentioned. And it's not just help you grow your presence, right? It increases opportunity for you on Tableau. And going forward, we'll talk more about that. So, social media for learning and growth. Learning through exposure. So, I would personally, I follow and connect with a lot of Tableau ambassadors, visionary featured authors, and active community member. I would I would almost always follow you if I say that you are a database person. If you send me if you follow me on Twitter, I'll follow you back. If I see you on Twitter, I'll follow you. I literally will just follow. If you do charts, if you build this, I'll follow you. That's just it. Same thing on LinkedIn. So basically what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to have this personal community where my feeds are kind of like always Tableau kind of stuff. I don't know if you understand. So it's like it kind of like helps you when you're scrolling through when you're doom scrolling, and you are kind of exposed to a lot of things, right? When the community posts stuff, the people you follow, you kind of see different tips and tricks because they are in your feed, right? You don't have to like go and search for them. So while you are just chilling and stuff, you can just be seeing stuff. So it just helps you to get that get that aspect of your life like fixed, the database aspect. So you're always seeing new visa, stuff like that. Also, like I mentioned, you kind of discover new charts, new design techniques, and storytelling method on your feed. You don't even have to Google it. You see them on your feed. They're always on your feed because you follow them, right? Because you follow them, you interact with their stuff. So the algorithm is just going to like keep on popping stuff like that for you. And that is literally one subconscious way to sharpen your skills, right? Where your feed is always filled with different tips, different chat types and stuff. So you kind of like subconsciously are learning. I think so. Follow community projects. We've spoken about that. Following community projects. So always follow Makeover Monday, Vis for Social Good if you're interested in that. Sports, I think Sports Sunday, something like that. Yeah, if you're also interested in that, like really, 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 really good stuff. You can learn a lot. And I think they have a games night community project also. Yeah. Post your damn work. Literally, post it. I don't know why you are not posting it, but wherever you are, look at my face, post your work. You just have to post your work, right? You cannot go wrong with posting your work. You get it doesn't have to be perfect. Like if you go down the rabbit hole of my Tableau public, you see old work that are literally horrible. They are just bad. Like, but then it's like you're looking at them. I'm going back and I'm looking at them and I'm kind of impressed because I've grown, right? It helps you to keep track and appreciate the present and also anticipate for the future, something like that. So just post your work, keep posting. Don't worry about what people think. Everybody's trying to figure stuff out. You get, so don't worry about that. Just post your work. Post your work. I'll just keep on saying this. Post your work. All right. So we have like there are common challenges you could face when you think about posting, to be honest, right? And the number one challenge is that it's not perfect. But then if you think about it, what is perfect? I mean, to me, perfect is subjective. And when things are subjective, it doesn't even exist. Just perfection exists. It doesn't exist. Do you understand? What is more important is that you are building upon whatever it is that you are doing, right? So just post. You've done the hard work already. The hard work already is the learning process, showing up every day, showing up every week, every month, whatever your schedule is, right? You are showing up for it. That's the hardest part. You've done it already. So just posting your stuff is like the icing on the cake. The simple things matter. And I'm going to explain that very, very shortly. What I mean by the simple things matter. So if you look at the screen, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm bragging or anything, but I don't mean to. I don't mean to brag and stuff. So if you look at the screen, these two posts are my best performing posts. Literally my best performing post, right? So we have the on group stats bar chart. So after building this and putting on Tableau Public, it looked like really, really basic, right? It looks really, really basic to me. Literally really, really basic to me. And I was like, do I even need to post this thing? Why do I need to post it? I already have it on Tableau Public. So it's like, it's okay. It's enough. That's why I said that was my word. It's enough. But then another thing in me was like, Sebastine, just post it. I was like, okay, whatever. Let's do it. So I posted it. I posted it, and it got like a lot of engagement, and it was like really, really cool. So biggest one of the biggest names on the data farm messaged me on LinkedIn that this solution is like really, really insightful and really, really helpful, and asked if I'm open to hopping for a blog post, a collaborative blog post. And yeah, we did that, and that was like, it's performed like really, really well. We had a lot of recreations from different community, the Power BI community, the Excel community, the R and Python community. We had a lot of recreations. It was literally a really, really crazy moment, and a lot of, I'm talking about impressions, hundreds of thousands of impressions. Just this simple stuff, right? Just this simple stuff. So basically, you might think that, okay, whatever it is that you've built, you might think that is basic, but it's not basic for other people. Do you understand? It's a way of kind of like giving back. So if you are learning from the community, posting your stuff and putting stuff out there is a way of giving back, because you don't know who you are inspiring. You don't know who is getting inspiration from your work. Do you understand? So don't be selfish. Post your work. So the second viz is related to the almost the same story with the first viz. After building it, I posted it on my Tableau Public, and I was like, okay, whatever. I don't need to post this and stuff. But either ways, I still posted it, and it had like a really, really good, um, acceptance from the community, and it's it's really, really great, because these two visits are visits that I didn't want to post initially. Do you understand? Like, I literally didn't want to post initially. So this is like a sign for you to, whatever it is that you have on your archive, just post it. Whatever it is that you have, post it. It's just post. I cannot emphasize
Hi,
much on
Seb.
that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we just have a few minutes.
Oh,
You're
okay,
welcome.
okay. All right. So, sorry about that. So, the upside to this is that you kind of like build confidence in your work, right? You build credibility in the data community, right? You are exposed to the community more, and you connect with like-minded professionals. So basically, that's what social media is meant for. And putting it together, community projects, we use community projects for challenges and learning. We use reverse engineering for practice and implementation. And we use social media for feedback and exposure. Thank you. And yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Seb. Do we have any question but here online? Oh, okay, we have a question. And Sam, I think we have a question for you. Can't see it.
All right, shoot.
Yeah. So we have a question from this specific anonymous attendee. So this person is asking, in your experience, what kind of projects or content tends to gain the most traction in the Tableau community, and why do you think they connect so well?
Okay. I think the basic answer to that is that if you look at the whole point of Tableau is to help businesses make decisions, right? So I would say the best content for Tableau that would gain traction more is business dashboards. So take advantage of the community challenges, reward fake data, use the data to build as much project as you can and post. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any question for Sab here? Any question? Okay. Thank you so much, Sebastine. We really do appreciate you coming in for us. Can you give a round of applause to Sab?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys. Before we take our refreshment break, we have one more session with okay, I think we have two more sessions to go. So we have a session coming up. We'll be having Olushola Olojo, and he'll be joining us in a minute. But for now, I'm gonna quickly introduce his topic, and when he's here, we can do proper introduction of him. So Olushola Olojo is the head of data and analytics at Peer Power Foundation, London, United Kingdom. His topic will be from spreadsheet to self-service analytics, a nonprofit data transformation journey focus, building analytics capabilities in resource-constrained environment. That is a lot of English. But just taking that, Shola will be taking us on from spreadsheets to serve analytics. Hi, Shola, can you hear me?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely, we do.
Oh, man, yeah, nice one.
Yeah. So, Shola, I'm gonna introduce you officially again, and after that, yeah, you can take over from me. So, guys, we have Olushola, like I said, a UK-based data strategist, currently working in the field marketing while also leading data and analytics at Peer Power Foundation, a nonprofit focused on youth empowerment. With over 5 years of Tableau experience, he specializes in leveraging data visualization for impact, drawing on initiatives such as Makeover Monday and the pioneering of WEB Dubious. His broader interests include art, philosophy, and of course, martial arts. Thank you so much for having us, Shola. And yeah, you can take the word.
Amazing. Again, first of all, I just want to. Can you guys see my screen? What screen can you guys see?
Yes.
Can you see Peer Power Foundation on there?
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. Yeah. Amazing. Well, again, thank you, for having me, and I just want to say a massive happy birthday to you guys at Lagos Tug.
Thank you.
I've been following. Yeah, it's amazing. I've been following your journey for over the past year, and seeing the way your leaders, Maureen, Idris, how you guys have galvanized the community and had some amazing speakers and events over the course of the years. It's really inspirational. And yeah, just keep up the good work. And again, very, 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 very proud of you guys. And thank you guys for having me on here.
Thank you, Shola. Thank you so much.
Nice one. Yeah, and yeah, so today, as Maureen called out, I'm going to sort of talk you through Peer Power Foundation. So it's the nonprofit I support with, and just the journey we've been on as well over the last 6 months to a year. You know, we've managed to transform the organization into something a bit more data driven. I don't want to say data led because it's still an ongoing process, but we just started to look at our data a little bit closer and try to find out the nuances within those data that allow us to make a more cohesive culture, but ultimately, how can we make decisions better? And just listening to Sebastine on a previous call, he made some, phenomenal points. I think everyone here, has come through the data fan community and initiatives like sort of Makeover Monday, Vis5, Vis for Social Good. I think it's such a critical step in your development and how you sort of go on to become more proficient with the tool. But what I really want to call out today is essentially just understanding the nuances and difference between initiatives like that, but also data and data analytics in the enterprise and organizational setting as well, right? Because it's different. It's different. I think for me, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. So we have our audience here who thinks you're a little bit too fast for us to really understand what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll slow it down. Yeah, I'm
So
sorry.
if you can slow it down a little bit for us, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. My mistake. So I think what I'm keen to do today is to showcase the difference between data in a community setting and data in an organization and enterprise setting, right? And again, like I've laid out a quick agenda, and like you just called out, I'm going to go through this in a series of steps, like basic introduction into like sort of who I am, who Peer Power are, what is the work we do, and then we'll dive straight into the data strategy itself. How we've been able to identify the goal, we want to achieve, the problem we're trying to solve, the new piece of insights, and ultimately the solution that we came up with to help move the organization along. I'll then demo you some dashboards that we've built. I've created a playground environment on Tableau Cloud, and I'll just sort of take you guys through that. And then I'll leave the floor open for any sort of questions you may have. And again, I'm very keen for this to be just to be very conversational, collaborative. So Maureen, like you just called out, if I'm going too fast or I say something that needs, further clarification, just call me out and I'll do my best to sort of explain. All good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, just introducing myself. So my name is Olushola Olojo. I'm head of data analytics at Peer Power Foundation. I'm a Lagos boy. I was actually born in Ikeja. And as Maureen called out, I'm also part of the London Tableau user group. I co-lead the team with the likes of Sarah Bartlett, Zainab, Alina, and Mo, who've all phenomenal Tableau users in their own right. And we've been sort of honestly taking inspiration from you guys to see how we can bolster our own team as well, So there's things in that regards. I've been in the sort of Tableau space for about 5 years. I've earned some recognition in that space. In the likes of being an ambassador, such as yourself, Maureen, as well, Olojo, and also been part of the community equity task force. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm still learning as I'm going along. Outside of data, and I feel like this is such an important part, to have a world outside of your work, because it serves many different functions in terms of fostering sort of creativity, and just makes you a more well-balanced person, I feel. I'm quite sporty. I was actually fortunate enough to participate in the London 2012 Olympic trials in the triple jump. I don't have any knees and ankles anymore, but it was a fun journey. And like I said, some of my interests include, philosophy, art, and like I said, kickboxing. I think I really feel like Sebastine sort of called out using and sourcing inspiration from many different areas. So social media might be one. You know, whenever I'm in the creative process of putting together a dashboard, I usually tap into elements of art. You know, how can I design this based on what I've seen from places I've visited? If I've gone to a museum and seen something I really like, I can take inspiration from there. I may look at a comic book, for example. I might take design elements from like a movie. So I really feel like having a well-balanced interest certainly feeds into the iterative process of, you know, dashboard creation in that sense, you know. So really, really good. And again, like I called out, and this will make sense, I was a triple jumper, and I actually went to, I was fortunate enough to earn a scholarship to go to the University of Memphis, where I was for all 4 years. It was a really transformative period of my life. I earned my, you know, I graduated my degree in economics out there. I won a conference title. I met my wife out in America. But crucially, I fell in love with the city of Memphis, and that ties into the story and why I am presenting today. You know, the Memphis community, you know, was extremely rich for me in terms of sort of the culture. I'm a huge fan of music, and it was the home of, you know, blues music and jazz. And, you know, you walk through Bill Street and you see it's rich in history. The food was amazing. The sports element, there's basketball, Memphis Grizzlies. So it was a really, really, really huge pillar of my sort of life, and, you know, really propelled my career trajectory as well. So you can imagine my dismay where, you know, we turn into the other side of the city, the dark side of the city. You know, Memphis actually has one of the highest crime rates in the US. You know, statistically, it tracks 3 to 4 times higher than the average of the state of Tennessee and US. In 2017, for example, it had a crime rate of over 2,000 per capita, you know, which was a 10% increase from the previous year. And the worrying thing is this isn't showing any downward trends. It's actually getting worse, you know. So this is where, you know, peer power organization come in. You know, we have to ask the questions, you know, how can we fix this, you know, in a community that, you know, means so much to myself, so many people, you know, how can we use an organization like peer power and its data to build and foster a more cohesive culture, you know, and which will in turn lead to, you know, better economic impacts, improve the city, and build a high trust society. And, you know, that's what peer power is. It's a non-profit organization, and how it works is it partners with students and schools in the inner city area. You know, there's really, really impoverished areas where there's very little resource, very little support, and it deploys success coaches and students to help improve support in the classroom, support for teachers, in a bid to give people access to education. And you guys know, you've been through this journey. Education is the greatest equalizer in this world. I say it time and time again. And so the work that this organization does is particularly important, and it's had a really lasting impact in the community as it is. And I've actually got a quick video, if it works, to share with you guys. We won't watch the whole thing because, you know, in the interest of time, we only have 30 minutes. So I'll play this, but there'll be a link in the end. So oh, oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'll just fast forward this, sorry.
Hi, Shola. Are you trying to play the video for us? Because he's keeping
Sorry?
it. Oh.
Yeah. So I'll pop it back. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Sorry. I just had a quick video to share. I'll pull back to the PowerPoint. Can you guys see? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, awesome. So that was video. It works in theory, but there'll be a link for you guys to watch that video to get a bit more sort of context around what peer power is as an organization. It's just a very long video, and I had to like sort of fast forward it. But reason I wanted to do that was to give you guys some context. I think too often, especially when it comes to data, we jump straight. How often do we get a data set and we jump straight into connecting with Tableau and then trying to visualize the data without understanding why we are visualizing it and what questions we're trying to answer? So I think that video was, again, just to give you some context into why it is we're doing what we're doing, but ultimately just frame things up into what I call these 4 pillars of identifying the goal it is we're trying to achieve, the problem that we need to have solved, the new piece of information that we have access to that will ultimately lead to the solution, and create a cohesive strategy. That's the ultimate framework I use to embed data strategies across organizations. So that's in terms of peer power. So the goal was clear. We had access to different types of data: student data, demographic data, attendance data, graduation data. How do we start to leverage this information so we can equip our program directors and success coaches with the insights needed to make more of an impact in the classroom? That was the goal. It's clear, it's simple. How do we use our data better? In order to do that, we have to identify some of the problems and pain points within organizations. So it's very common that we're not a very big organization. We don't have the resources or funding to have a full-fledged data team, or we didn't at the start. It's starting to grow. But some of the challenges we would face would be, one department had records of one data, which was different to another department's record of data. No one could agree what the right measure to capture would be. So in terms of KPIs, no one knew what to look for, how to even look for it. So these were some of the problems. In terms of our reporting, it was very clunky, very manual. So we had to figure out what is the new piece of information we were going to use to then bridge this problem. And that new information was sourced through speaking with the people in the business through a survey. And then we introduced Tableau eventually, when we found out that the staff fed back that if we were to visually and interactively show them the data and give them more access on demand, they were 3 times more likely to use that data in their decision making, right? So how we went about crafting that solution was very imperative, because we had taken the necessary steps, and it led to us creating a centralized data model, like a database somewhat. We had consistent KPIs. We had some actual dashboards that success coaches now have access to on demand, which I'll take you through in a little bit more detail later on, time permitting. So this, again, was the framework we use for our data strategy. So I always encourage people to, when building organizations, start with the clear goal. We want to make the organization more data driven. That's the goal. Understand the audience, what we're trying to achieve. I think too often we, leap straight into dashboard building without, fully understanding the questions we want to answer. And, you see dashboards, as Sebastine has coined, you can get some really good dashboards, can get some not so good dashboards. And some of the not so good dashboards are ones that, there isn't a clear goal, there isn't a clear message. They just throw in a bunch of KPIs and trying to answer everyone's question. And in that process of trying to answer everyone's question, they answer no one's question, So be really clear what it is you're trying to achieve in that goal. And then, slowly break down the problem, So one of the big problems we had was, and you'll see in most organizations, in particular with Peer Power, we partner with various different schools, right? And different schools operate at different speeds. Some schools are very quick, some schools are very slow. Equally, some schools capture data in a certain way, others don't even capture it at all. So this was a student completion sheet. So a success coach will complete this sheet to let us know how many hours they've worked at a certain school. And this is information that we need to track, right? So some schools will have this saved in a PDF. Other schools will have a Google Sheet. Other schools will have a Word document to save this. So it was very inconsistent with how we're even capturing the data in the first place. So we had to identify that. The next step is how we are then, storing the data. So we use Google Drives in the onset of, storing this information, and it was very, very noisy. Let's just say that, we had different files saved in, and there was a lack of data governance as well, so people can access the file at will, and errors happen. People will log into a file, make changes to a document that is important, and it completely undermines the integrity of the data. So you can't even trust the information because you don't know who's gone in and changed the information. Equally, the final element was our reports were very manual. We would try to, we of course would be trying to share this information out with donors, trying to raise money, other schools, program directors, and it was a very manual process. We'll type in information, use Excel files, but there was no visual element to bring the story to life. So these were some of the infrastructure issues we had to deal with at the start. Similarly, we've also looked at some of the problems from an infrastructure standpoint. We had to speak to the people as well, right? So find out what the data culture is like within that organization. And here's my wife, Sydney. So she's part of the organization as well as a director of storytelling. And some of the pain points she would mention is that, there'll be instances where she will need access to a certain data. I need access to, graduation rates or attendance data. I don't know who to go for it. Even if Matthew sends me the data last week, Monday, I don't know what version I'm even looking at, so she's had to find out a ways of working that's suited to her, but it's ultimately not tied to how the organization should be working as a whole, right? And these are what we call silos in different pockets within an organization. Similarly, our CEO, Courtney, who would be in high-level board meeting, he doesn't have time to be, checking, dashboards and so on. He just needs to trust that information being provided to him is correct and timely, So there'll be instances where, you'll be looking at retention rates, for example, and, someone might send them a piece of data from one department and the retention rate is 72%. And another department might send their own information and they say their retention rate is 64%. And to him, his question is like, what do I go with, right? So there was inconsistent metrics across the board, So, understanding that culture, understanding the infrastructure challenge was particularly important in building this foundation. And that gets us to our build, right? And I like to use frameworks. I'm very cold blue, I'm very analytical. I like to have clear, concise frameworks to help operate. So I had to, you know, work with a team, and the first question I asked myself is, what part of this system needs work? And the answer can't be all of it, you know, because you have to do things like this incrementally. You don't want to, you know, get in a situation where you bite off more than you can chew. You want to be really focused. And I use what I call a code framework to navigate some of those things. So capture, you know, how are we capturing the data, you know, in terms of volume, in terms of cadence, how much data do we have? Who owns the data? How frequently does it come in? How much of it comes in? You know, where does it sit? You know, how are we capturing that data first and foremost? The next step, you know, how are we going about organizing this data? Do we have, you know, a database in place, or can we afford something a bit more, you know, flexible to support us in our drive? And then the D element, distill. You know, once we've captured and organized the data, how do we then distill that information? So this can take, the frame of like an ETL tool, you know, and it could be the analysis process. You know, how do we take that data from being organized to something we can tangibly use to drive insights? Excuse me. And the final piece is E, you know, express. You know, how do we, you know, once we've distilled information, how are we expressing that information back out to the people who need it? You know, is this the form of a dashboard? Is this, you know, a PowerPoint presentation? Is it just a table? You know, is it just a number, an email? You know, so this is the framework I try to embed throughout the organization, and try to get people to think in that fashion. So the first step is, you know, I like to do what we call Safari, where, you know, we run a survey across the entire business, asking the key questions. You know, what department do you work with? You know, how long you've been in the organization? You know, what's your level of fluidity with data? Are you confident with data? You know, to try to get some structured feedback into how much work or how little work we have to do. You know, if someone's really data fluent, you know, understands, they have a high degree of data literacy, I can then take that information and analyze it and say, you know, to the CEO, actually, you know, so-and-so in the marketing department, they actually understand data. You know, they have a wish list. This is the data they want to receive. We currently don't have that, but is this something we can provide? Or the conversation might be recruitment, you know, don't have a clue how to even count this function, or, you know, they don't have a indication of how to aggregate, you know, the amount of applicants they get each week, or sum it or count. So we might need to do a bit more training in regards to that, you know. So I think that first dissection of Safari is so critical, because it serves one of two things. It gives you feedback, and the second thing, and even more crucial, it makes people feel included, right? Ultimately, what we're doing with data is, you know, we're taking people on this journey, and people are more likely to buy into some of the dashboards that you build if you bring them along in that journey. You know, make them feel included, make them feel like their input has been valued, right? So much so, you don't want to create a dashboard that, you know, sits on a drive, no one's accessing it, because you've built it with, you think you have their interest in mind, but ultimately you just built it with your own, you know, knowledge, you know, and prior to launch, it just sits there collecting dust. So to drive user adoption, you want to make people feel included in that journey. So I think that's a really critical step. And then once we sort of figured out how we capture, we then went through the process of organizing this data. So, you know, we got okay, you know, we need, you know, program data, or we need university data. We found out that, you know, throughout the process, a piece of analysis we were doing was, if we were to partner a student with a tutor from the same sort of subject area. So, for example, an English major, someone who studied English at university, they went on to tutor someone who's, you know, in an English class or had an affinity for English in high school, we're likely to see more success there. So one of the information that the recruitment team asked us to start to capture was majors. So when we're recruiting, we had to figure out what majors certain applicants study, you know, what subject do they study at university, so we can start to make sense of that data, you know. So we started to figure out, okay, this is relevant, this is not relevant, you know, this isn't relevant, you know, okay, this is the KPIs we want to track, you know, this is the format we need, you know. And I don't know if you're familiar with Tableau Prep. I've used it a little bit. I'm not the best, but we had someone on our team who, Catherine, a data architect, who would, you know, take this information, create flows on Tableau Prep, do all the cleaning process, you know, deleting duplicate columns, merging files, consistent naming conventions, ultimately creating a single source of the truth. So we now know, okay, we have key metrics that we can track, but not only that, once we've agreed on it, we can then start to scale that process. So instead of building flows over and over again, we've, you know, written an incremental refresh that automatically updates and connects to Salesforce. So as soon as the data is captured, we hit refresh, the flow pulls straight into our Tableau Cloud environment. And some of this data sits in an SQL database, some still sits on Google Drive, some are still in Excel and CSV folders. But I say all this to say, like, we are in the process of iterating and building. And, you know, this is something that a key step we took in that process, you know. And once we've sort of figured all of that out, you know, I like to create wireframes. You know, we've captured the data, you know, we figured out how to clean and start to distill it. Now we can start to shape and build our dashboards. I'm a huge believer. I like to roll up my sleeves and get dirty, you know, like I'm a huge believer, and I still use pen and paper, you know, if I'm fleshing out dashboards, you know, I like to draw it out on paper, you know, iterate, erase some things, add new things in. And the reason I like pen and paper is because you're not so much married to it. You know, of course, there's technology out there that you can use to build this for you, you know, pretty simply and easily. The issue with those technology is sometimes it will be hard for you to iterate because you made so much progress in that initial build and, you know, moving and aligning those text boxes. Whereas on a piece of paper, if I don't like something, I'll scrunch up, start again, you know. But it's always important to get ideas in front of decision makers as soon as possible, as critical. You know, you don't want to say, okay, you know, we'll wait until we'll wait until we get to X stage and then we'll get in front of it. Because you would have, the worst thing is going through a full build, you've wasted the resources, you've wasted time, and you get in front of the stakeholder and decision maker and they say, actually, this is not what I asked for. But if you're guiding them through the process early on, say, actually, we think, you know, these are the KPIs we want to track. You know, we want a line chart, we want a bar chart. What do you think of this filter? Do we want to filter by teacher? How about classroom? How about subject? You know, and I've put a quote here that says, you know, what our goal isn't to be perfect from day one, is to keep making measurable progress. You know, small incremental gains. That's how it is. You know, you don't want to stifle yourself into not making any progress at all, because, and this comes back to what Sebastine said around posting your work. You know, if you look back to everyone's Tableau public, post your work early, you know, get that out there, you know, you'll get better. As a hiring manager, I want to see people have an aptitude to learn. I want to see that you've progressed, you know, show me your baseline. So I want to look 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line. Okay, they started here. Now they know how to use colors more effectively. They know how to use white space. Okay, they understand typography, you know. So post your work early and then keep progressing onto that, you know. How are we doing for time, Maureen? Sorry. Maureen? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, how are we doing for time?
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes to go.
5 more minutes. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I'm almost done. I'll just take you through a few dashboards and then I'll leave the floor open to any questions. So, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, brilliant. So again, this is I've created a playground of some of the dashboards that we've, you know, built over the last year. And again, that iteration you saw, was conceptualized and ultimately landed in this this space here. And some of the metrics we're tracking was, how many students, were we serving, right? How many minutes were we spending in each classroom, and what were we doing in that classroom, and what does that trend line look over time? So we can say, okay, actually, in January, in December, we had a slight dip in the amount of students we served. Why? Asking questions why, and unpacking it and saying, we had a lot of holidays in December. People were away for Christmas. And then that picked up again in January, and then in May, a slight dip. We only worked for half the month in May, and almost starting to uncover some of these insights, and that's going to lead to more tangible decision making. Ultimately, here at the bottom, we can see that we've got the ability to drill down to see what we're doing in the classroom. We want to ultimately, and I always say this time and time again, a dashboard is a dashboard in itself. In my personal opinion, I really don't believe it's the most efficient way to communicate insights, but it's a medium to communicate insights nonetheless. I'm always like wanting to figure out, okay, what are we trying to get on the back of this? And as you're going through your journey, I want you to always have that so what piece, so we can see that, in this instance, under 2-minute interactions accounted for 60% of time spent and what we're doing with students. So what? Does that mean that it's effective? How do we then marry this to test scores? So if we were doing, under 2-minute interventions in a certain classroom with a certain teacher, so if we filter to a particular school and say like a PSAI school, for example, and we're spending, 69% of the time doing that, has that led to that high school performing better? What's the test scores like in that school? What's the graduation rate? Are people getting, is the dropout rate less? If we tie it back to, our goal of trying to be more data driven, but ultimately the goal of trying to build a more high trust society and community with low crime rate, low dropout rates, is this helping us in that conversation to help mitigate some of those challenges? So these are the questions you typically want to answer with your dashboards. And ultimately, it's the second dashboard we sort of built, where we're looking at, some of our success coaches. These are tutors. So what is their ethnicity makeup? We see a large proportion of our tutors are female, right? Does that mean that females just have, women have a more affinity to become tutors, or are we not recruiting enough male tutors, for example? Because if we look at some of where the challenges are, it's some of the male students that are more likely to drop out, more likely to get involved in like gangs and things of that nature. So do we need an influx of more male students there? So these are some of the questions that we are in the process of getting answered with our dashboards in that sense. And ultimately, we want to get to a stage where we're able to sort of compare the schools that we're visiting versus the schools we're not visiting, and say, actually, this is the impact we're making, right? The difference in peer power, and we can go to Art for Money. This is it. We had a 12% uplift in this school versus this school. So that's the direction of travel we're trying to get to. Finally, this is just a quick summary of what I've taken through the steps. I'll share these slides out, but it's just a quick breakdown of how we've taken the steps to be a bit more data driven, from data collection, ultimately rolling out to testing, training, and getting data out to people. So it's still an ongoing journey. If someone says they've achieved self-service analytics, they're lying. It's always an uphill battle. You can get close to it, but I think it's always going to be an iterative process. It's always going to need work. People are always going to, there's always filters we want to add, or filters we want to take away, or new measures we want to track, or some new piece of information. So I think just I think my biggest message to you at the end of it is just, continue to have a curious mindset. The fact that you guys have made this trip here, suggests that, you've got that inquisitive mind. You want to learn, you want to get better. And that is a perfect recipe for trying to for being successful in life in general, but particularly in data. We're scientists. We love to test. We want to experiment. So continue to have that inquisitive mindset in anything you do. When you leave this place, continue to search for answers and ways you can get better. Tap into the Lagos user group for resource. They'll be able to still support you. Equally, I'm here as well. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, coming back to what Sebastine said about being on social media, following the right people, making your voice known as well. You want to be considered a thought leader in this space. What Bolahan, what Idris, what Marine have done in the last year has been phenomenal, and a lot of that has been driven by their inquisitive and tenacious mind to go out and put their work out there. It's scary, it's daunting, but everything great in this life lives on the other side of fear. So I always encourage you guys to do that. Israel as well. I haven't forgotten all of you. I know you guys are doing a phenomenal job. But you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm not really on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter at all. But that's my handle there. And of course, connect with me on Tableau Public as well. I just want to say again, thank you so much for your time. And it was great to share this. I know it was a little bit of a rush job, and, things like this virtually. I like to do this in person. Things, virtually sometimes don't work, but I hope you guys have, taken some things away from this. I've certainly have on my end. And I'm really appreciative of it. Thank you. Any go on. Any sort of questions at the start?
I think over we've had, as I've been consistent of which is progress over collection.
Sorry, Marina. I can barely. It's a little bit.
Okay, let's.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Yeah, I said for the past two speakers we've had, including you, which is three, like we've been hearing the same consistent information, which is progress over perfection. Be curious, do it in public, be consistent with your work, put yourself out there. And before you, we had Abe, who also demystified a lot of stuff for us as beginners who are starting out in Tableau. And like you said, you reiterated most of the things you said. And we just want to say thank you, Chola, for making our time to be here with us. Do we have any questions? Any questions? You're looking like somebody that has a question. Any issues? I don't think Chola can hear me.
So I didn't hear that last bit. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, I said we do not have any questions from the audience.
Oh, this question.
But there's a question on QA section. Yeah, there. Okay. Someone is asking how easily replicable is your nonprofit in Nigeria?
Ooh, that's a really, really good question. I don't think too difficult. It's a very simple model. Let's pick up offline. I don't know who asked that question, but let's pick up offline and figure it out. My exposure typically sits in the data sphere, so there's things around, because there's a lot of it's through fundraising, partnership. I don't have much in the way of exposure in that world. But in terms of the actual model itself, tutoring and partnering with universities to go into high schools and tutor, I think it's something that's certainly doable. Absolutely. So I'm happy to speak with anyone who is keen to foster that journey, and also would be open to being a key figure in that side of it, for sure.
Absolutely. Okay. So I am going to go ahead and introduce you briefly, and you can take over from me. So, guys, we have Mr. Toby Williams here with us. He's also a part of Lagos to UG. Anyways, I don't think he doesn't know, but yeah, he is actually. And for proper introduction, don't know why this is shaky. Okay. So Mr. Toby Williams Babatunde is a product manager at Nescon Rastagracia, Abuja. He'll be taking us on a topic on the wonders of map layers and switching from Power BI to Tableau. Imagine. Also, we'll be talking about things to notice, like data-driven product, visionary, bridging tech, and creativity. Well, Mr. Toby will demystify all of that, but for quick introduction, he's a data-driven product visionary and architect who transform complex analytics into growth and innovation, bridging tech and creativity to empower sustainable education, democratize energy access, and the future of blockchain technology. Of the script, Mr. Toby is a co-lead of the Abuja Tableau user group, and of course, my friend. So, Mr. Toby, you have the floor now.
Hi, Maureen. Thanks for that wonderful intro. I'm going to start by thanking the Lagos Tableau User Group team for this invite. Really, really lovely to be here. Really lovely to see everybody here as well who is attending. And without further ado, I think I can begin what I have for you today. As Maureen rightly captured, I started my career I like to say I started my career in audit actually, right? So accounting, it's not what I studied in school, but I think it was it was the first place that was going to hire me. So I started as an auditor and I learned Excel really well and I realized, hey, I actually like doing this Excel part and analyzing. And after a year, I left KPMG. I joined a startup. So my startup life started very early in my career, actually. After 1 year, I left corporate, went to like a startup. And yeah, I started doing like data analysis using my engineering background, electrical engineering background to inform decision making, right? For energy clients, or should I just say like manufacturing clients? And yeah, it was the first place I actually like learned Power BI, learned to work with devs, right? Developers, and yeah, like building end-to-end solutions. So literally installing energy meters at different locations in the country, Bodija or, Ikeja, collecting that data, storing it in the cloud, manipulating, transforming that, putting it into a database, and eventually, pulling that into Power BI, synthesizing all that information and, yeah, presenting to stakeholders. The first time I gave a presentation to the CEO of a microfinance bank who had like multiple branches, he looked at it and he was like, wow, this is only installed in some pilot locations. When can we install this system in all our bank branches? And that's when it clicked to me like, wow, there's money in this one. Two, if we could make this much impact with energy analytics, imagine how much more impact you could make with, just knowing or applying data analytics to any other industry or any other aspects, to finance or to operations or to sales or to human resources. So yeah, after a couple more years at the startup, I branched out and started my own company, Resa Gratia, just to kind of like help clients build dashboards, automate their processes, and all that time. And I've shared this story before. Um, and I think you've like heard Abi Oni probably was like the first presenter today. So she used to run like Tableau user groups very, very early on in Lagos. We're talking like 2018, you know, was it? Yeah, yeah, there about 2017, 2018. And I would go to those user groups as a Power BI head and just like, want to replicate everything that is being done. I just went for the curiosity, right? But it wasn't until like 2021 when I was like essentially like won over, or I had to just like learn Tableau because I got a job that required you to use Tableau every single day. And that experience almost cracked me, right? Because I was already like revered as a professional in Power BI. And then I joined this company and I'm being made to feel like I'm a small boy. I'm still just learning. Imposter syndrome, tried to set in a couple times, but I've become a much better person because of that experience. Transitioning from Power BI to Tableau wasn't the easiest, but with a lot of support and help from visionaries or ambassadors or just like following some community initiatives, I was able to just make that transition. So I think you can use both tools. Data, like, I because of the nature of my work as a product manager, I kind of use almost any tool for the job now. I like 5, 6 months ago, I was reluctant to use Luca Studio, which which is like it's provided by Google. I was like, nah, I'm gonna use Tableau, and the CTO at the company is like, nah, I'm not. We're not paying 1K for Tableau. Like, I'm like, I was really annoyed, but then spent some time, realized, oh, it's actually just like, you know, you already know these things, dimensions and measures. You just need to write more SQL in certain places. So I'm literally just here to tell you that you can do it too. If you're here and you actually come from like an Excel background or Power BI background, you can learn Tableau. And I'm sure I see a set of resources here that Tobiloba shared, Makeover Monday, Back to Biz Basics. When I started out, I was doing like a lot of Makeover Mondays, and it really, really, really helped me because I would spend time downloading those visuals. How was this person able to create this? I would join sessions like this or sessions where the author of the dashboard, right, would go over how he built or she built that dashboard. And it was really, really helpful for me. And yeah, like I love Tableau. I use Tableau every day. And yeah, actually, one of the best features of Tableau that I love is maps. So I've just concluded the first section of my talk, which is switching from Power BI to Tableau. Excuse me, that was meant to be like a condensed version. So I'll actually go into um, Tableau maps, right? The wonders of map layers. And I believe I can share. Let me see what I've got. Uh, can you guys see my screen? Okay, super. Right. So happy 1 year anniversary, right? Lagos Tableau User Group. You all have been extremely inspirational. Every single one of you. So in terms of what I'm going to be talking about, we'll look at what spatial files are, right? The three fundamental geometry types that are, are classed as spatial files, what administrative hierarchy means, and then we can build something real quickly. I don't know how much time I've got. I think maybe 15 to 20 minutes, right? So let's get started. What are spatial files? I mentioned earlier that Tableau is actually like really, it's built from the ground up with extensive mapping capabilities. And some of the things that you can easily do with Tableau is work with spatial files, right? And spatial files are essentially resources that store geographic data, right? About real world information. Real world information could be boundaries, of countries. It could be locations of key assets. It could be all depots or military installations. It could be roads. It could be infrastructure. It could be settlements. It could be things like schools. You know, Spatial files store those types of geographical information. The most common formats are .shp, which it stands for like shapefile, right? GeoJSON is also like a sort of common spatial file. If you've used Google Earth before, there's a .kml or .kmz file. And all of these types of files, right, are ways of, would I say, compressing geographical information to store real world data, real world features. Now, there are three fundamental geometry types. You have the one that's zero-dimensional, one-dimensional, and two-dimensional, right? Zero-dimensional stands for points, right? So they're just discrete locations. There's no area, there's no length, there's no direction, none of those. It's just a single point, um, right? Lines kind of like represent features, right? They have a length, but there's no necessarily like thickness, right? There's no width. So it's just connected line segments. And then you have polygons, right? Similar to the shape that you have at the bottom there, right? Um, would I say, yeah, the polygon that you have there, right? The sort of like chamfered square shape that you have there, it represents a boundary. And this is what you would use to represent like a a pool of water, or a lake, or something like a country or a state or a local government area or a ward, right? And just to be a little more like clear and direct, I will show you, let me show you this HTML file. Can you guys see this um visual over here? Or is it just my presentation that's showing? Okay, let me check. All right. Thanks, Tobilova. So yeah, the visual is just explaining what like the types of spatial geometry you have. You have points, like I mentioned. It could just be locations of taps or drinking places or whatever. It's zero-dimensional. It has no length. It has no area. You know. It could be a GPS location, it could be individual trees. These are some examples, right? Weather stations, accident locations, you'd represent them by points. And then you have lines, one dimensional, right? Interconnected, lines between segments. Roads, rivers, pipelines, things like that are represented by, railway lines, they're represented by lines. And then you have polygons, right? You can see they are a closed loop, right? Closed shape, and they can contain holes, no issues, right? It's two-dimensional, it has a perimeter, it has an area, right? It doesn't always have to be this smooth. It could be very, you know, um, it could be very irregularly shaped, right? It's still a polygon because it's a closed shape. As I mentioned, you could use it for countries, it could be for land parcels, building footprints, agricultural fields, stuff like that. Shout out to Claude AI for generating this HTML file. Pretty cool. Yeah. So I'll continue with this presentation. So now we understand what spatial files are. We understand the three types of spatial geometry, right? What does administrative hierarchy means, right? Sometimes, especially when you download 2D spatial files, stuff that have like closed boundaries, they're usually segmented in levels. Level 0 represents the entire nation or country, right? E.g., Nigeria. Level 1 represents the first major division within the country. It could be states or provinces. If it's Nigeria, it's going to be states. If it's a place like South Africa, it's going to be a province. Level 2 represents the subdivisions within the initial level 1. So in the case of Nigeria, when you subdivide state, you have local government areas. Level 3, it goes on like that. Subdivision within, say, local government areas. In this case, would be wards. And then level 4, communities and settlements. So let's tie it all together, right? I'm actually like, a very practical guy. If I have something in my head and I think, hey, it's like, once I read a little bit about it, I'll try it out. And then when I'm stuck, then I'll go back and read again. So let's try, right? So let's just build something very simple, right? It's, map layers, of Lagos, as you can see here. We can identify filling stations in Lagos, right? Identify where we have like rail lines, and then identify where we have roads. You're not able to see, say, like rail lines or roads in this particular view, and I'll explain why as I share my Tableau visual. So let me just share my Tableau visual. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my Tableau desktop? Okay, super. So in this view, right, we have filling stations all over the country, right? We cannot see the Tableau, we see it now. Okay, cool, thanks. In this view, we have filling stations all over the country, right? We have the subdivisions, right, per state as well. These are like local government areas. You can see these guys are like local government within the state. We have the blue lines over here. You can see these blue lines. These represents rail lines across the country, right? There's a place here where you can see the Lagos Ibadan, right? If I try to zoom in here, you see like the Lagos Ibadan rail line over here. This guy here. This is the Lagos Ibadan rail line. And then the sort of like the ones that have not allowed highlight on the pinkish plum lines, they actually represent the road networks within the country. So you can see there's a whole lot of road networks. You can also see like very sparse sort of like rail network all over the country. Obviously, your source of data also is important. I've gotten some of this data from gadm.org, the Human Data Index, free. All of this data is free online. You can download, and also I also use like grid3.org, right? The data from there. I can show you what that looks like when you're searching for the data. But the first thing is, I'm just going to open a new sheet, or maybe I should just open a new Tableau, which kind of helps. but let's open a new sheet. The first thing is you connect to your data source. My base layer, I want my base layer to just be the map of Nigeria. In the map of Nigeria, I want it broken down into, so that's level 0, into level 1, which is states, and at the same time into level 2, which is local government areas, right? So I want that first base level. So what do I do? Let's go to my data source, right? I've already gone online. I've downloaded data that has up to like level 2 shape files, right? Level 2 geometries, which is up to like the local government areas. So let's create a new data source here. I'll create a new data source, right? I'll connect to a spatial file. I will, you know, um, I will I will select the spatial file that has it's a JSON in this case, that has the Nigeria to states to local government shapefile. And you can see how that looks over here. You can see the geometry column, right? You can see the type is a multi-polygon, right? Which is just like multiple polygon files together. And you can see the types of like, this is level 1 that you have here. This is what is called name 1 here. You can see it's states in Nigeria. And then level 2, you can see it's the actual local government areas within those states. And yeah, I can rename my data source and call it maybe demo NGA, right? Demo Nigeria. And I go to my new sheet that I have here. You can see I'm connected to that data source. And I can just drag my geometry, drop it in here. And immediately you see that it's gotten the shape file, the boundaries of Nigeria. It's still very, it's like if I highlight, I still don't know what state I'm in or whatever, right? So I can drag my name 1, which is level. You can rename it if you want, if we right click and then you rename these as states, and then name 2, right click, you can rename. This is what? This is local government area. So I drag my state to my detail. And now if I highlight certain sections, I can see, right, the state, right? Something that you also notice is because I downloaded a level 2 data, it means within each state, I have the opportunity to show the local government areas, right? So I will just drag my LGA over here, drag it into the detail as well. Now I can highlight a specific, local government area within a state. In Lagos, for instance, I'm highlighting Ekpe or Etiosa, and yeah, some quick formatting that you can do here is to go to map and just go to like background layers and remove some things that you don't want. Maybe remove the base layer, remove the land terrain, remove the other country border and this and all these light states. I don't need these other province names. And now it's clean, right? You build something like this. Okay, but we're not done yet, right? I so sorry, are you saying something? Okay. Okay, cool. So, but I'm not done yet, right? This is just like, okay, it's still very basic. On this map of Nigeria, I want to add, because my, specific interest right now, filling stations. Of course, you can go ahead and decide that you want to show schools, or say you want to show the location of school, all the different types of schools that you have in Nigeria. And, I'm just going to pause here, for instance, and maybe like kind of show you how to get this data. Say I want to get like the location of schools. I have some resources here that, if you'd like to check them, it's like these guys over here. This is where I got like the shape map of Nigeria, but there are so many places I have it. Grid 3 over here, is a data hub. If I go onto grid3.org, um, just to show you live, it's like Okay, all data by country. What I'm actually looking for is something like infrastructure data, right? Which is, health facilities and infrastructure data is where infrastructure is where you find something like health facilities, for instance, or schools. So this is grade three COD. This is this is not Nigeria. This is Congo. This is NGA. So health facilities in Nigeria. I'm just gonna go to something that looks this police stations in Nigeria. That's actually pretty cool. So let's have a look at police stations in Nigeria. I see a comment. Is that for me? Okay, thanks for sharing those links. Yeah. So let's see sort of like the locations of police stations in Nigeria. And can I get this in real time, or is this going to take some time? Okay, so here we go. Um, um, records of it was first published in 2020, and it looks like it was also updated in 2024. So yeah, let's download this data. I'm going to download I think shapefile usually like, or any of these guys can do shapefile or GeoJSON. This guy is probably like not that heavy to download. So let's see. Okay, 64 kilobytes. All right. I'm gonna put that data in my folder, right? It's a zip. I will open it with archive utility. And now I have that. So police stations. 1 second. Okay. Okay. I'll drop it in there. So I go back to my Tableau. All right. I go back to my Tableau, which is this screen. And then I go back to data sources. And in data sources, let's just say that I don't know what is in this shapefile that I'm trying to add. So I will first like maybe create a new data source, right? Go into the spatial file that I'm looking for, and it's police stations. I bring in that shapefile. Okay, so you can see I'm just like kind of like browsing through this police station. It's a whole new, um, it's a whole different type of different name for the data source, right? It has a timestamp, it has a ward name, so it has a local government name in that. So it kind of like goes all the way down to like level 2 in that. And then it also has a state name. So you have a state name and you have a local government name, which means that I can connect it to this guy here. Let's go back to that demo, which means I can connect it to this country data set and they will be fine, right? No issues. But I need to make that connection. So I can go into LGA. I have states and LGA as the columns here, state and LGA. Cool. So I just add that specific data source to this demo data source, right? And I will just add that here. So we're looking at police stations, right? So I will drag this police stations shapefile, drag it here. I will select the connecting fields. In this guy here, I think there's a field called state. Let me just zoom in so you can see how I'm making those cardinal relationships. State equals, I think, state name here. And then here we have LGA. LGA equals, I think, LGA name here. And I'll leave it like that. Then I'll go back to my sheet 3. I can close this. Okay, I have this. I go back to my sheet 3, and this particular, what is it called? This particular data source, right, is what we're using. This is the police station data, this table. In fact, I can rename it. I can call it grid 3 police stations. I'll look for the geometry of that. Maybe I can even rename that as well, just so that it's clearer. geometry, police stations. And I just have to drag that geometry, go to, so the moment I carried over the existing map, it gives me an option to add a marks layer. So this is, again, going back to the what we're teaching, the wonders of map layers. I add that onto there, right? And immediately in the max pane, I can see two different layers. The police station is at top. This guy is at the bottom. And yeah, I can just to like, you can see that they are not split. They seem like one single item when I highlight. I can simply carry in the police station's file, carry the name of the police station, right? Police station name, drag it onto detail, right? Now everyone is split and add some color, right? Give it a nice warm bright. Um, if you like, you can add a border, could be white, make it a little bit. And now you have a list of police stations, and you can actually add something here since they are joined together now. You can add states as maybe like a filter. So some of these states that you're seeing that are unchecked, it means that in our data, in the join for both, um, would I say, um, spatial files, there, especially because I know this in the join for both spatial files, there are some states that are not covered, and it's most likely in the filling stations, the police stations. We don't have data on police stations in Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, and all those places. That's why it kind of like shows up like this. In fact, we don't even have data on police stations in Federal Capital Territory. That's why it shows up, unchecked here. So I would just click OK. And it shows you like where we actually have data that exist in both scenarios. Obviously, you can override that. Let's say show filter. You can override that by just saying, single value drop down, right? And do some really exciting stuff. Single value drop down. And you can choose each state that you want, and then you can see that, oh, in FCT, we actually do not have data on, you know, um, police stations. In Lagos, you can see where the data on the police stations are distributed. Lagos State Area, F Command. And you can do like a whole lot more stuff, with this now, and like build very beautiful dashboards, or, you can add more stuff, on this. So yeah. Um, in in my original example here, I actually manually added Dangote refinery. It's like you can add your own data to it, right? If I were to ask where you guys are now, right? Like the location where you are, if I wanted to show sort of like where that is on the map, are you guys close to a police station? Are you not? You know, we can actually do that. So can you help me? What's the location of the the meeting space where you're at?
Unilag, need help. Just Unilag.
Unilag. Okay, so let's try Unilag. So I'm just going to say Unilag in Google, right? And I'll go to Maps. Looks like I'm almost out of time, which is cool. So I'm just going to go to Maps, and there's University of Lagos somewhere here, right? I will just copy. I have 5 minutes. Cool. I'll just copy the geo coordinates here um in the link, right? I just do Control C. That's pretty much it. And then I will come to my Tableau, right? I'll come to my Tableau, and I will create a new point in this data source. right? I'll call it Unilag. And then I'll say there's again like Tableau has so many like geographical like functions, make points, and you know make line as well. And you can like just do quite a lot with it. So I'm making this point. It converts a pair of geo coordinates, latitude and longitude, into a spatial file. So I'll click OK. And then see Unilag over here, created, right? I'll just drag it and I can make it its own map layer, right? You can't really see it. It's somewhere here now, right? Over here. So I will add some formatting. The first of which would be maybe I can change it into a shape type, right? And then I change the exact shape I want. There's some in some of my custom stuff over here. There's a pin here. Apply. I click OK. Now you can kind of like see the pin, but it's not that obvious. I can zoom out a little or make it bigger somewhere here like this. And I can reduce, say, like the opacity of the base layer like this. Just make something, you know what? You know what? Let's do this. Okay. And then these police stations, I kind of reduced the opacity earlier. Can make it thicker. So yeah, that's where you guys are in Lagos mainland, you know. And you can play with this, however you want. You can add a, you know, add a text, you just call it Unilag or something, right? And that would make it, stand out. You can do that. Like it's up to you, right? Like how you how you want to do these things. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from me. Um, very happy to take any questions you have, and also any sort of feedback you have on this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toby. Thank you. Do we have any question for Mr. Toby? Oh, we have a question for you.
Right. Is it in the chat?
No, in person.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Toby.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been waiting for a while for one of our speakers to talk about money. You are the first person that talk about money. All right. So, question I noticed a trend from most of our speakers. They got into
I think I lost. I can't hear that anymore. Is it just me?
Disconnect. Mr. Toby, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. I noticed a trend from our speakers. Most of them got into using Tableau or any other tools from their first job, and that was like quite a while ago. Most of us now, I noticed that the competition is much, and we are learning from one tools to the other and to the other. And I don't know for that, but for me, the goal is to make money. Okay, and that is why I started learning all this stuff. So I want to know what advice can you give, learning tools and making it turn to money. Okay, so that's the question. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. I don't even think you need to go far, like me, I'm far. Like people close to you there, Maureen, Idris, Jim, look at all of them. They're all chopping money, right? That's a sign of um, the reward for just like doubling down. I think there are probably like maybe two approaches you can take. It's like to key into something that you feel like, oh, it would be both rewarding and to help you. You can say, hey, I just want to do Tableau. Maybe and I want my skills to be like just really top notch. If you double down on Tableau and you stay fixated on Tableau, like everybody can see that this guy is just everything he's doing is Tableau, you're going to make money, right? Someone will reach out to you, or you'll have built a lot in your portfolio so much that when you're applying to jobs, you will stand out. That's one approach. The other approach is kind of like to play it safe, so you use multiple tools. If there's something new that you would like, sure. I mean, that's come out, you can learn it, write about it. You're non-biased, you're just like, almost open to whatever comes your way. And you probably tend to do a lot of applications. In that case, whatever job comes your way, you most likely take it as well. It is within that job that you then grow your skills, right? You make yourself like highly valuable. You learn and improve and become so good that it's like your value is unmistaken. From that point, you can apply to any company, any job, I mean, any company, and you have like more confidence that you'll be able to get a job that will be willing to pay you what you want. There's a high chance especially if you're just starting out, they won't pay you what you want initially. And even for experienced folks, sometimes your like expectation is not meeting reality. So I think like that's probably like the two approaches. Either you play it safe and learn multiple tools, but still like trying your best to be like really good at each of those tools. You post about it, you write about it, or you lock in and double down. I've not seen anybody, for instance, who has doubled down on Tableau or SQL, or they said they wanted to be like extremely good in Python and they haven't come out at the end of it. It's not been the silver lining. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
I-
Toby. I hope that answered your question. So we have a question on Q&A. We have one from Emmanuel Fakayode. And so he said, how can I show the axis when the y-axis is beyond 90 for a line chart? So the first question he asked was, can I build a line chart and actually show its axis? I know the first part is possible.
Okay. To build a line chart and show its axis, okay, sure. And then how can I show the axis when the y-axis is beyond 90? Let me see if I get your question right. So this is Tableau, right? Right. You want to build something with a y-axis. I mean, how can let me show how can I show the axis when the y-axis is beyond? Oh, he's talking about like map layers, right? The 90 degrees. So if you're here, right, you obviously I think you understand about like map layers, latitude goes from 0 to positive 90 and then 0 to negative 90. I I'm not sure I have built anything that is outside those confines of that range. But maybe somebody here has, because those are like it's fundamental limits, right? For latitude and longitudes. Longitudes go from 0 to 360, right? Or 0 to 180 and then 0 to minus 180, making 360. Longitudes go from 0 to 90 and 0 to minus 90. So, and all locations on Earth have to fit into that range. So I don't know. I would probably advise you to try to shrink all the other locations so that your features will fall within the 90 degrees. And if that doesn't work, maybe you, what is it? You in your dashboard, you layer two different sheets together, they layer on top and then another one below. Maybe those could be hacks to make that work. So I hope that works.
Thank you, Mr. Toby. Emmanuel, I hope that answered your question. I guess we do not have any other question for Mr. Toby. If that's the case, thank you so much for coming around, and we'll pass your jollof rice when I come back to Abuja. Don't worry.
There's jollof. No worries. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate the
All right, sir.
yeah.